Hi, welcome to my channel. Thanks for stopping by. Today I'm going to show you guys how I DIY a couple of wall hanging wooden nutcrackers that I picked up from Hobby Lobby. So if you like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell so you'll be notified the next time I upload a video. Now let's get into this and let me show you these nutcrackers. These, like I said, are from Hobby Lobby, and these are in their craft section, and these are originally $12.99 a piece, and because all Christmas stuff is half off, I was able to pick these up for $6.50 each. Now to begin with, I'm going to use some of this deco art in the warm beige, and I am going to use this to paint our nutcracker's face with. Now I'm just using an angled brush, and I'm using a pretty wide one because there is quite a bit of area to be painted here, and this just gets the painting done pretty quick using a brush that's about this size. And then again, I'm just trying to be real careful not to get too much of this paint on the raised part of the eyebrows or mustache, eyes, things like that. If I get a little bit on there, I'm not worried about that. I will touch all that up. Now, after I get the face part painted, I'm going to use some of this Apple Barrel white matte paint. And I'm just going to go ahead and do his mustache. Now, I'm going to do the eyebrows as well as the hair. But then I also decided that I was going to do most of the rest of our nutcracker in the white before I go ahead and add our other colors, because doing that white underneath the red will make the red actually pop a little bit brighter red than if I were to do it just directly onto the wood itself. And again, I'm just going to try and be real careful not to completely cover where they've given us an outline like of his crown, where they did that in like a wood burning. They gave us the image of our nutcracker on here so that I can still use that. Now you guys know I absolutely love nutcrackers, and I've never done a nutcracker that has a little bit of a gingerbread theme to it. So I was excited to try this out this year. So I'm hoping this all turns out really well. I'm really excited about this one. And you can see I'm pretty much going to cover just about everything in the white except for the flesh tones. But everywhere else you can pretty much see I'm going to go ahead and paint all white. Now here you can see I'm going ahead and doing his hands, and I'm doing that in the same color that I did his face. Now I did not do his boots yet because I have not decided if I want to make his boots black or if I want to make them white. I'm still debating on that, so I'm holding off on that part yet. Putting this white everywhere on him before I go ahead and add our red. That is going to really make the red kind of pop through that white, just make it a little bit brighter. Now once I have all that done and our paint is dry, I'm going to go ahead and take my pencil, and what I'm going to do is, first off, I'm just going to give him a little bit of like a collar here at the top of him, right underneath his head. Just add that little bit of extra spot right there. Now I'm going to go ahead and use some of this Apple Barrel matte nutmeg brown along with this Apple Barrel matte antique parchment, mix them together, and that is going to be the color that I use for everywhere where I want it to have kind of that gingerbread look to it. Now I'm rounding this part around the top here. That's going to kind of look like a cherry and stuff on top of them. Give it kind of that candy look to it. Now you can use whatever color you like best. There's so many different colors, and some people love the color that I pick. Some people are like, oh, I wish it was this color. You use whatever colors you like best for your nutcracker. That is a great thing. There are so many different ideas and looks that you can use. I'm just showing you what I used, and I kind of like this a little bit lighter color for the gingerbread area that I'm going to be doing on him. We're going to give this almost like a waffle cone look to it. Now this will dry just a hair bit darker than the color that we actually put on. And you guys know, if you've watched any of my videos, my first coat, it's always just get it on. I'm not super careful. It's more about like, let's just get our colors on. Once I get everything on, then I go back through and kind of straighten up my lines and make everything look a little bit neater. But my first coat of paint is always just to get it on. Now I also want to do this part at the top of his boots, and I'm going to go ahead and again do this gingerbread color here that I made with our nutmeg and our parchment color mixed together. And then I'm going to take my pencil and I'm just going to kind of outline maybe about a quarter of a way on that white part on his sleeves. I just kind of want a definition between where that gingerbread color on the top of his sleeve is going to be and where the red will end up going. And you can see I just kind of gave that about a quarter of an inch. Now I'm just going to take in everywhere where I'm going to keep my colors a little bit different. I'm going to go ahead and draw that out on here like I'm doing on his sleeves. Now I decided I'm going to give him kind of that peppermint gingerbread look or that candy cane gingerbread look. So I'm going to do red and white. And so I'm going to give him some red and white stripes on his sleeves here. Now, if you are really very precise and everything, you can use a ruler and draw these lines very, very straight, and that is perfectly fine. I tend to just kind of eyeball stuff and wing it and draw a straight line, and my lines are not super straight, but that doesn't bother me. I kind of like that each little thing that I do looks very original. Some people absolutely hate that. They want everything to be very crisp, very precise, and that is perfectly fine too. And if you are one of those people, I recommend using some painter's tape or a ruler, and you can make your lines doing it that way. Now, one thing I do like to do is I like to kind of measure out with a ruler, and I'll put little dots and kind of measure so I have it evenly spaced, and I go from the outside to the inside on both sides so that his stripes on his legs or his arms are going to be about even. But then, like I said, all I do is I take my pencil and I just go ahead connecting my dots from the top to the bottom. And you can see there, my lines were not perfectly straight. Now up here on his crown, again, I'm going to go about a quarter of an inch from the edge of the white to the brown. And I'm just going to come down about a quarter of an inch and just kind of trace along there, and you can see that. Now once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and make the candy look on his little buttons that are on his crown and his coat as well as on his boots. Now what I like to do, I put a little dot about in the center of my circle. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but about, just eyeballing it. And then I go ahead and I draw one line through that center. Then I try and draw another line going absolutely opposite. So it kind of gives me a cross there, like what you can see there, or an X. And then I go ahead and divide those 2 more times to totally get our candy cane or our peppermint look. Now here you'll see I'll just go ahead and draw another line straight across here, just like that. And now I'm going to do the exact same thing again, going the other way. That way I have 8 portions for each one of our little round buttons or areas that I'm going to be using as peppermints. Now for the red, I'm going to be using this apple barrel bright red. This is also in the mat. I'm just going to start up here at his crown, and again, just following that line that I just lightly drew on there. Now I'm just going to go ahead and paint right along that, leaving me just a little bit of edge of white right there. And you can see how I'm doing that. And again, I'm not real precise about it. At first, my first thing is just getting our paint on. After I get everything completely painted, I always go back and just clean up my edges a little bit and clean everything up, give it a second coat if it needs it. But my first coat is always just to hurry and get the paint on. Now that the crown's done, I'm just going to move down onto his shoulder, and I'm going to do this area. Again, I drew that little bit of 1/4 of an inch on the white part, and I'm following that line that I drew on there. So I just have that little bit of white separating the brown gingerbread area from the red. And I really like how that white just really sets that off. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the stripes on his arm. Again, I'm trying to be careful to keep it kind of straight, but this is not where I'm trying to be like really anal and not make sure it's absolutely perfect. Now, if you are that type, like I said, this is where painter's tape could come in really handy for you. Now we're going to go ahead and do this outside portion of his jacket. Again, just trying to get the paint on there, not trying to really get wild with the red paint, but also not being like super careful. Just getting that first coat of paint on. I'm starting to really enjoy these colors together. Now I'm going to do this lower part of his jacket as well. And now we're going to switch over to his other arm. You can kind of see how he's coming along here. I'm really liking the colors. And just as we did on his arms, I'm going to do the exact same thing here doing his legs. Again, not trying to get super wild, but I'm not freaking out if I go outside my lines just a little bit. And now we're going to add this kind of cherry area here to the top of his hat. And then we're going to start painting our peppermints. Now I'm using the very edge of our paintbrush. Again, this is a slanted paintbrush. I'm just using that edge to go ahead and do the slices of our peppermint. And we're just working our way all the way around, as you can see here. And this is the same thing we're going to do for all the peppermints on his crown, as well as on his jacket and on his boots. Now I'm doing both of them, so here you can see what it's looking like up to this point. I'm loving the way that looks. Now I'm going to use some of this folk art licorice paint, and this is in the gloss, and I'm going to use this for his eyes. And you can see there we have his eyes done now. And now that that's all done, I'm going to go ahead with my pencil and I'm going to start drawing on this waffle cone look everywhere where we use the gingerbread brown paint. And again, I'm just eyeballing it. It's not perfect. I'm keeping it about 1/2 inch apart on my stripes that I'm doing here. And I'm just starting my stripes at an angle. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the stripes going the opposite direction, also at an angle. And that is going to give us kind of our waffle cone look to them. Now, I find it a little easier if I just put my waffle cone look on with my pencil first, and then I can paint over the top of that. Now, you don't have to do this step if you feel very confident in making your waffle cone and just doing it straight out with the paint, that is really a preference thing. This is just what I like to do. And you can see I'm bringing that right down onto this area on his chest. And now you can kind of see why I gave him kind of that little bit of the white collar. I wanted to separate this waffle cone area from his head. And if you make a little mistake here and you have to erase your line or something, it's not the end of the world. You can always touch up paint over it. It's not a big deal. And you can see here on the right hand side, right underneath his head, where I kind of erased, I got my line a little wonky there and I erased it, and it kind of left kind of this ugly spot on there. Not a big deal. I'll just touch that up in a little while. This is, again, one of those really forgiving DIY projects, and those are pretty much the only type I do because I don't want something that if I make a mistake, it's ruined the whole entire project and I'm just getting rid of the whole thing. I like stuff that's very forgiving. So this is a fun, easy project that you don't have to worry about. If you make a mistake, it's going to ruin everything. Now you can see I'm doing the exact same thing to the top of his boots here. And you'll notice I always do my lines at angles. Here, let me give you a closer look here at his crown. And you can see how I did my lines even on his shoulders, as well as that front part, and then right down here and to the top of his boots like we just looked at. So now I'm also going to go ahead and do his belt. So I'm just going to start kind of at the corner and bring this down here, doing the exact same thing that we did on the other parts. And now once I have that done, I have this very small paintbrush, and I am just going to use our white and lightly go over all the areas that we just drew on with our pencil. I'm just going to lightly go over those with our white. Just as you see me doing here on his crown. Now you can go ahead and just do the white paint like this and leave it like that. That is perfectly fine. I'm going to be using another type of paint in just a minute over the top of that. But if you don't have the other type of paint and you like it just like this, that is something you can do, is just put this white paint on like this and leave it at that point. There are several areas on him where you can stop at different points, and that is one of them. You can just put the white paint on like this and leave it at that point. Now I'm going to outline this top part of his boot to give it a little bit more dimension right there. Now once we have this boot area all done and I've given it the dimensions on top and bottom, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and paint his boots white. I've looked at it and I've decided that I'm going to prefer white boots on him compared to doing him with black boots on. So I decided to go ahead and paint his boots all white. Now once I have that done, I want to add a little bit of sparkle to his eyes. So I'm just going to give him a couple little dots here on the side of his eyes up at the top, just like that. And now I'm just kind of give him kind of a little swooped area here at the bottom of his eye, just to give him a little bit of a happy look to his eyes. And there is his eyes. Now you can see I got a little wild outside of his mustache there. Not a problem, we'll retouch that up. Now I want you to see what he looks like at this point. He is actually looking really good. I'm loving him. And you can see with just the white painted on the waffle cone look of our gingerbread man, I'm already just loving it just like that. And you could stop at that point if you wanted to. What I'm going to do is use some of this tulip slick paint, and I'm just going to go over all the lines that we just painted on, and I'm just going to put some of this tulip slick paint right over the top of those, just to give it a little bit more of a 3D effect. Now you can see this a little bit better in person than what you can actually on the camera. So I'm going to give you a look here as soon as I'm done with this part and kind of let you see what the difference is. Now, doing this with the slick paint, I highly recommend giving yourself at least 24 hours for this to dry. I have tried to do projects where I hurry it up and try and do it in less time than that. And for me, sometimes it doesn't completely dry if I try and push things and go a little quick. So I always try and give this slick paint at least 24 hours to dry. Now you can see I'm doing the exact same thing up here on his crown. I'm just going over the top of the area that I painted white, and I'm using the slick paint. This is just to give him, like I said, more of that 3D look, or more of like this ginormous nutcracker cookie look. And I'm going to go ahead and outline his crown here, even on this white part that I had. Now, the one thing for me is, it seems like the older I get, the less steady my hand is. And so I get a little shaky with my tulip paint here and there. But again, I'm not going to stress about it. It's not such a big deal. Unless you're looking super close at it, you're really not going to notice. I'm going to go ahead and outline this area right here that I just left white, separating our red and our waffle cone gingerbread portion, and also this area that separates the white from the red at the bottom of his shoulder there. And I'm going to just continue this everywhere on our nutcracker. Now the areas that I do not go ahead and add this to are anywhere on his face or his hair. You could if you want to, but I just didn't feel like it was necessary. Now once I get all the waffle portion done, you can see I'm going to go ahead and outline this white area of his coat as well. Now you do have to be a little careful with this part because they put these buttons a little close to where we are painting on the edge of that, so it's not a big deal, just something to watch out for. Now next I'm going to use some of this apple barrel burnt umber, and this is also in the matte, and anywhere that I may have gotten a little wild with our slick paint or any other paint on these edges that are actually dark brown, I'm going to go ahead and touch these up with this burnt umber, just as you can see me doing here. Now the slick paint is kind of a glossy paint, so you may have to do 2 coats on those to totally get it covered. Now here, let me give you a close-up. This is with the slick paint on, and you can see it's not perfect in spots, but it's not a big deal. Anywhere that I need to touch up, I will go ahead and get that touched up next. And again, you could stop at this point if you want, but what I'm going to use is some of this Mod Podge in the matte, and I'm just going to put a very light coating over him, and I'm going to do it in sections so that it doesn't dry before I get it all covered here. Now you can do a couple of things. You can go ahead and put the Mod Podge on and just seal it, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put a light coat of fine glitter on him once I get this Mod Podge all over him. So as you can see here, I'm just doing the crown portion, and then I forgot to show you what type of glitter this is, but this is just some glitter I picked up from Walmart. This is their fine white glitter, and I'm just going to sprinkle this all over. And once I get a nice coating of that all over, then I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of turn them on the side, knock the excess off. I'll put the excess back into the glitter bottle and keep going until I have them completely done. Now I want to show you, some people hate glitter, so here he is on the right without the glitter, and here he is on the left with the glitter. So either way that you want to do it, I just wanted to show you both ways. Either way, I love them both. It doesn't matter what you think is better. You do whatever you prefer. You can do them with glitter or without glitter. I decided I wanted to go ahead and give him a little bit of glitter because I want that kind of cookie, gingerbread, sugary look to him, because I'm going to be using him with all my gingerbread items this year. So that is why I gave him that light coating of glitter. But for all you people who absolutely hate glitter, I totally get that. And you can go ahead and seal him with the Mod Podge and not do any glitter on him, and he is going to look just as gorgeous. I'm loving this kind of candy cane gingerbread look to him, and I'm really excited to use him this year. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell so you'll be notified the next time I upload a video. Thanks so much for watching.